Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take stacks of sources, pull them apart, and bring you the insights that matter. Today, we're plunging into Fail Fast, Learn Faster by Randy Bean and Thomas H. Davenport. Now, this isn't just, another tech book. It's really about the surprising truth behind what it takes for organizations to genuinely thrive with data and AI today. Our mission here is to unpack the core lessons from this book, which came out back in August 2021. So, if you're trying to navigate all this complexity around data, AI, constant disruption, or maybe you're just curious about how businesses are adapting beyond the usual buzzwords, well, this deep dive is definitely for you. We'll explore the tech shifts, sure, but more importantly, the human and cultural side, the stuff that often gets overlooked. And honestly, the biggest hurdle might not be what you think. Okay, so let's kick things off. The book argues pretty strongly that the world is in this urgent race to become data-driven. Why now? What makes this moment so critical? And what's the fundamental shift they're highlighting for leaders?
Yeah, it's fascinating that they set this up. They talk about big data emerging.
Yeah.
And not just the volume, right? But the speed, the variety, even the sometimes questionable veracity of it all. All this happened alongside this explosion of information, tech advances, the internet, social media. And this whole mix has really challenged our basic ideas about data, about science, even facts. So the book's core message is adapting isn't optional anymore. Organizations absolutely must evolve, and fast, to compete, to survive, really, in this age of disruption, big data, and AI.
Right. So it's not just optimizing processes, it's genuinely about survival. Does the book give some, striking examples of companies that are really grappling with this or maybe failing to grasp it?
Oh, precisely. It really digs into the disruptive power of data and the huge challenge for legacy companies trying to pivot. It's not just theory either. They provide, as Don Peppers and Martha Rogers called it, a whirlwind tour of real-world business cases. You see examples like Fannie Mae building out a modern data environment from the ground up, or Anheuser-Busch InBev creating a unified data platform. That's a massive undertaking. Even Munich, the big reinsurer, using advanced data analytics to actually address natural calamities. These aren't just small tech projects. They represent pretty fundamental, almost existential shifts for these companies.
Okay, now this next part feels really key. The book gets a lot of praise for moving beyond the tech talk. We hear constantly about infrastructure, algorithms, but this book focuses on the human and cultural challenges. What does it identify as the main obstacles companies are hitting today? And why are these maybe harder to fix than the tech?
Yeah, this is such a critical point. Your first thought might be, oh, it's budget or the technical complexity. But the authors point to something else based on their survey work.
Yeah.
Their 2021 Big Data and AI Executive Survey found that while companies are investing heavily in data, the biggest roadblock, cultural obstacles continue to be the greatest impediment to success.
Culture.
Yeah, it's the silent killer, really. Deeply ingrained habits, resistance to thinking differently, maybe even just a lack of belief in what data can do.
Yeah.
The book hammers this point home. Companies must develop a true data culture to actually change. And that means everyone, top to bottom, needs to think and act differently about information.
So it's not enough to just buy the shiny new tools. You have to actually change how people operate. How do companies do that? Does the book give concrete strategies or examples of places that actually manage to shift their culture?
It absolutely does. And these are, like David Edelman said, profiles in courage. They learn from what worked and what didn't. The book talks about moving from data-rich to data-driven, like AmFam, American Family Insurance, building data literacy programs across the company. Travelers Insurance went through a huge cultural transformation, specifically targeting data use and mindset.
A whole transformation program just for data culture.
Exactly. And then you see Nationwide Insurance creating an enterprise data office, basically a central hub to drive and coordinate everything data-related. Northern Trust focused on integrating the human and technology dimensions. So not treating them as separate things. It really boils down to shifts in training, yes, but also leadership commitment and fundamentally changing mindsets.
Okay, so with all this transformation happening, it makes sense that a new role emerged. The Chief Data Officer, the CDO, the book calls it the sexiest job of the 21st century. That's quite a statement. How does it describe how this role came about and evolved?
It really does, as John Bottega put it, bring to life the rise of the Chief Data Officer. It tracks the role's emergence. Initially, maybe it was more about governance, getting the data house in order, but it's evolved quite rapidly into a role that often drives business strategy and innovation. The book gives examples like Citizens Financial Group setting up a strong CDO function early on, and Scotiabank talks about their Chief Data Officer 4.0 model.
4.0, what does that imply?
It signals a real shift towards integrating advanced analytics and AI right into the core business operations. It's not just about managing data anymore. It's about leveraging it strategically at a much higher level.
So, beyond strategy and efficiency, what about the ethical side? What are the big tightropes CDOs have to walk according to the book? Where are the major risks?
That's a huge part of the modern CDO role. They're right in the middle of the ethical and governance questions. The book points to MasterCard, for example,
Right.
and their strong emphasis on data privacy and data ethics being central to the CDO's responsibilities. It has to be. It even looks at the U.S. federal government CDO initiative.
Right, so it's not just a corporate thing.
Not at all. It shows this role has critical public governance and accountability aspects, too. It's this constant balancing act.
Mm,
Drive innovation, but do it responsibly.
that brings up a broader point. What does all this mean beyond just corporate profits? The book has a whole section on data responsibility and data ethics. It even asks that provocative question, weapons of math destruction, referencing Kathy O'Neill's work on biased algorithms. So, what does the book reveal about data's wider impact on society, the good and the bad?
This is such an important discussion in the book. It highlights the emergence of data ethics as a really critical field now, but it also showcases the positive side, the big data for social good initiatives. There are great examples like Bloomberg's Data for Good Exchange, connecting data scientists with nonprofits who need help. MasterCard's Center for Inclusive Growth uses data specifically to tackle economic inequality.
Using data for inclusion, that's powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Tiana Veen doing data-driven responsible investing.
Hmm.
So the message is clear. Data transformation isn't just about the bottom line. It can be about building a more equitable, informed society, but
Yeah.
only if we approach it ethically and thoughtfully. That's the key condition.
Okay, looking forward now. The book gives a glimpse of the future, data-driven AI. How does it connect this whole big data revolution we've been talking about to the rise of AI? And importantly, what does it say about companies actually getting real business value from AI, moving past the hype?
Yeah, the book really tries to ground the AI discussion. As Alex Pentland observed, it takes the reader past the hype. It clarifies the relationship between machine learning and AI terms often used interchangeably but aren't quite the same. And it shows concrete ways companies are investing. You see pioneers mentioned like Capital One.
Right, they built their whole business on data analysis early on.
Exactly. And now they're investing massively in AI to stay ahead. The book also covers major AI initiatives at giants like JP Morgan, TD Bank, Charles Schwab. It shows these aren't just small experiments anymore. These are significant strategic bets on AI being the next evolution of data-driven value. AI isn't separate. It's the next step on that data journey.
Which brings us back, I suppose, to the title, Fail Fast, Learn Faster. What's the book's final word on this mindset? What's the takeaway about this whole data-driven journey?
It really drives home that this is a continuous odyssey, like they call it. It's not a project with an end date. And they don't just leave it at anecdotes. They lay out the 10 commandments of data-driven business transformation.
10 Commandments. Sounds definitive.
Well, they're framed as core principles, practical guides for the journey. And they illustrate it all with a deep dive into one company's odyssey, the data-driven journey of American Express, showing the long-term commitment needed. The message seems to be that big data is crossing the chasm, as Jeffrey Moore would say. It's moving from the early adopters to being essential for everyone, and the absolute key to future competitiveness. Continuous learning. Learning from successes, sure, but just as importantly, learning quickly from the failures. That fail fast, learn faster cycle is non-negotiable.
So this deep dive really underscores that becoming data-driven, it's far less about just buying more tech and much more about a deep cultural shift, a leadership transformation. It's about new ways of thinking and, crucially, that willingness to learn quickly when things inevitably don't go as planned. So for you listening, as you think about everything we've unpacked today, consider this. Bean and Davenport stress that cultural obstacles are the single biggest barrier to data success. So think about your own world. What's one specific non-technical human challenge? Maybe a habit, an assumption, a fear that you think would be the absolute hardest thing to overcome in making your work or your organization more data-driven, something to chew on.